Just the day, a group of Navajo Indians came into my office. They want to run the VISTA program on their reservation. To date, it's been run by outsiders, and they want to assume responsibility and the direction for this program. The Indians are prepared to assume responsibility. They're willing to do it. They have the ability to do it. And one of the great tragedies in the relationships that the federal government has had with the Indians, whether it's in the Passamaquoddy experience or the Alaskan native problems or the Navajos and the Hopis down in Arizona, is that we've refused to give them the opportunity to help themselves.
John Stevens, a stranger in his own land. Where once his people ruled, he struggles for survival. John Stevens is an American Indian. Though the tribe he leads is in Maine, he speaks for all Indians. These are his words. From our own experience and from the lessons of the past years of civil rights unrest in this country, we have learned that the white man never freely gives justice or equity to those he has exploited for so long. We are a peaceful people, but sadly we see that neither our single rights as citizens nor our timber and tribal lands will be freely offered. So we will stand and fight.
Whatever is happening, I can most definitely say it's because we Indians are trying to tell our story and trying to say, hey, look, white people have bungled for over 200 years. Let's try it our way and see if we can localize some of the problems that exist and let us try to solve.
I think the discontent among any Indian tribe today in the country is the result of however many hundreds of years of contact they've had with white people. And I think in Maine probably a lot of the discontent or dissatisfaction is some of it is 300 years old.
Indian Township, found in the far reaches of Maine next to the Canadian border, is the land of the Passamaquoddy. It is also a land of cruel hardship, the poorest part of Washington County, which is itself a landscape of poverty, by Governor Ken Curtis's own assessment.
Well, I'm afraid the current situation is somewhat similar to what it has been for a great number of years. First of all, we have a small group of Passamaquoddy Indians living on two reservations, two rather bleak land areas in one of probably the worst depressed areas in the United States. And this reflects even more heavily upon the Indian citizens because of the depressed employment conditions and underemployment conditions, because it's relatively difficult to find decent employment from anyone. And I think we find very unfortunately that throughout our country, the Indians living on reservations lag even considerably behind the economy of the white population in the surrounding areas.
The man who copes with the day-by-day struggle of welfare checks and vanishing pride is tribal Governor John Stevens. He's working, however, to end the epidemic of an American Indian malady now traditional, engulfing hopelessness. The first symptom, an unhappy recognition that 85 of every 100 Passamaquoddy men are jobless.
We work only mostly on summer months, and during the winter months we sort of like a bat, we hibernate for the winter. There's no employment whatsoever for the tribe.
Employment is kind of scarce here, but about the only thing the boys are working on is pulp and woodland mill. 2 or 3 boys working on that, several boys. The paper mill in the woodland. It's for Georgia Pacific. And, well, some of the boys go on the River Drive for Georgia Pacific also. That's only seasonal work, though. That on the drive, there's only about 4 or 5 months during the summer.
Well, there's no employment at all right now.
Work's not a very long while. I don't know. I tried, but I really didn't try because I know I never get anything. I mean,
well, last year I only worked about 3 months.
No. We don't have no job till all the snow.
melted in the woods. It's too much snow. No, it's soft now. Company don't work in the woods now. It's too soft.
When's the last time you worked?
Oh, about last fall.
What did you do then?
Worked up in that private hall up there. Done the painting down cellar there.
Have you tried to get a job? Would you like to be employed full-time?
Oh, what doing?
Well, I have two jobs. When I'm able to work, I have two jobs. I can work all the time. Season work, like breaking blueberries and go up Rusty County, pick potatoes.
We had a job, you mean? I had a job, but we got laid off.
Where were you working?
Working for Georgia Pacific.
The major Passamaquoddy employer in the Indian Township area is Georgia Pacific Corporation. The mill in Woodland hires 8 Indians, and when the woods open in the spring, 20 more Passamaquoddy bring home the paychecks so rarely seen in winter's long, idle days. Georgia Pacific last year put together an Indian training program. It says the classes began enthusiastically, but attendance shrunk from session to session. Some Passamaquoddy accuse the company of discrimination. For most Indian children, their parents' idleness will become their own legacy. 9 of every 10 will never finish high school. The change from the crowded reservation school so familiar to a distant, all-white high school is change beyond teenage adaptability. John Stevens is himself a dropout.
About 90% of them will drop out of high school. But, I think it's too much to be forced on at one time, to learn all of this in just a matter of 4 years, because they are so far behind now. Mm-hmm. This is my feeling on this, and there's numerous reasons why they drop out. It's not only on lack of, knowledge of what's going on in high school. See, we have any kind of program where we could actually try to orient them with what schools are like on the outside. So with the experience going into the new school, you're a stranger and you're handicapped,
Passamaquoddy pressure has improved reservation schooling since Maine's Education Department took control 2 years ago. Sisters of Mercy, once assigned to Indian Township, are today state-paid, sympathetic volunteers. New lights brighten the rooms that were dim for years, and with new heating installed, Indian youngsters no longer shiver through class. New buildings are desperately needed, and plans for them are in the works. But for the Passamaquoddy, for all Indians, the mills of white man's government grind exceedingly slow when it comes to progress. Native culture is still not in the curriculum, and language differences encountered at the outset pose a critical problem. John Stevens remembers.
I know this is my problem. When I went to school, English was a hard thing. I was in 3rd grade. I didn't know, what they was talking about. This is the whole story. And I got set back, held in 3rd grade for 2-3 years.
The approach here is to make the feeling of being an Indian a very negative feeling. So consequently, you take this with you all through the grammar school years, and then when you finally get into high school, it's so well developed that even if somebody did try to make an honest effort to say being Indian is a positive thing, and there are a lot of good things about being Indians, it's going to take a heck of a lot of convincing to really change one's mind after it's been formulated for 8 or 10 years.
Bad image about Indians on TV. We have combated somewhat, but it's still going on. And we are trying to write up to some kind of a history book to counteract some of this, because it's really bad, image of the Indian when they see, mostly playing a bad role on a TV. It handicaps us somewhat, because people are afraid of you, mostly, And they don't trust you. And I think this is one area they are misled. We can be trusted, and we're not that vicious.
There's a very bad history course in Maine today that just cites the Indians as being sort of a menace, you know, at the beginning of the statehood, you know, and we were just nothing but people that were in the way instead of people that were already here and should have been dealt with in a much more dignified sense than it's savage. You know?
With the new concern for image comes instruction in Indian dancing. As young adults, the youngsters will learn tribal songs, for yesterday's apathy is now moving aside for renewed interest in tribal tradition. Like their red brothers from coast to coast, the Passamaquoddy are fiercely proud of their own heritage and the part they have played in the heritage of the United States. They talk of the tribe's contribution to the American effort in every war since George Washington asked for their help and got it. Peter Mitchell was wounded 3 times as a Union soldier, yet survived to return to Maine. Many others left for the world wars, and many never returned. Today, Roger Dana is the first Passamaquoddy Vietnam War victim. His father, Albert Dana, is tribal representative to the state legislature.
He was sent to North Carolina, and after he get through there, he came home, and then for a 30-day leave, then he went to Vietnam. Ho Chi base. And he was, I don't know, I felt sorry when he made the switch, but he made a switch. He was a scout. He was scouting, and then he switched over, took a course in machine gun, and when he went on the machine gun, that's when he got it. I guess they go probably all out for these machine guns, more than the other ones.
You take an Indian among these people, local people here in town here. I don't say the whole of them because I couldn't say just the exact percentage of the people, but an Indian doesn't stand no show.
But in the state capital of Augusta, the Indian now does stand show. He's emerging with the first stages of a civil rights movement, and he is demanding to be heard. 2 years ago, an impromptu meeting with the governor would have been beyond the Passamaquoddy imagination, if not its nerve. The most dramatic sign, though, that Maine's Indians are ready to stand and fight could be found on the reservation a year ago. A sit-in protesting work assignment procedures and hiring practices led to Georgia Pacific's Indian training program. An Indian liaison for the project has not yet been hired. And now the movement enters a third arena, the courts. The issue? A prime Passamaquoddy grievance which is all important. Land, granted by treaty, is under white control. The Indians are suing to get it back.
The boundaries that's being disputed is the one in Indian Township where if it were resurveyed again, most of the town of Princeton would come under Indian Township. And we have a bill in the state legislature now trying to get this bill introduced and passed so that we can get a true and accurate survey once again, so maybe our township will expand to its original size. And the last thing that I'd like to point out is the fact that the state of Maine has continuously sold or leased lots on Indian Township, so that consequently, as far as I know right now, the acreage is approximately half of its original size.
This map, drawn in 1863, shows the current reservation with surveyed lots laid out. Since that survey, the white man has taken more than 45,000 reservation acres through quitclaims and 999-year leases. Land for the American Indian is the sorest of all wounds festering from centuries of white domination.
Land situation, yeah. That's the reason They're edgy and they want to get their land back, their own property, their own rights like anybody else. Especially now that civil rights is out in the open. Perhaps we stand a better show now than we did 50 or 75 years ago or more.
Oh, it's written in books and in songs that we've been mistreated and wronged. Well, over and over I hear the same words from you, good lady, and you, good man. Well, listen to me if you care where we stand, and you feel you're a part of these ones. When a war between nations is lost, the loser we know pays the cost. But even when Germany sells your hand, consider, dear lady, consider, dear man, you left them their pride and you left them their land. And what have you done to these ones? Oh, it's all in the past, you can say, but it's still going on here today. The government now wants spiritual land, that of the Canada and the Cheyenne. It's here and it's now, you must help us, dear man, now that the buffalo's gone.
I've heard some white people say, why not give the land back to the Indians? There isn't much to take back, even if they give it back to them.
Here lately, we can't even go in the woods and cut wood for our own use without somebody coming, this is my land. White people.
Well, I personally am inclined to feel that the tribes must establish a sense of confidence in themselves, and if this requires a stronger sense of tribal identity, then this has got to happen. Basically, I think in answers to all of these questions, the tribes can tell us the answers. And if a tribe wishes to become more independent, if a tribe wishes to become more involved in making its own decisions, if a tribe wishes to become more involved in close functioning with white people, whatever the tribe's decision is, I think this is the solution to the problem, because I think only the Indians can truly identify their problems, and only the Indians can truly suggest solutions to them.
We're trying to create some kind of industry for the reservation now. We have talking with different people on the state level to get some kind of industry on the reservation, but nothing has yet been be finalized in the final stages.
As John Stevens talks of bringing industry to the reservation, his people wait and wonder. For the Passamaquoddy, a people whose right to vote is but 5 years old, this is a time of change, of contradiction. For most, year-round work is a strange idea. Is it what they really want? Did not the white man promise in this treaty to care for them forever? But then, what kind of care has the white man offered? It is a time of questioning, of searching for a common direction. As for Governor Stevens, the first answer is to once again control his own destiny.
What I would like to see is first to prove that we own this land that we are, living on, to have homes that we have deeds to, and mostly self-determination is mostly the biggest thing, I think. It's controlling your own affairs.
Self-determination, though, will not come easily. Stevens searches for a consensus to back his efforts, but it remains elusive. For traditionally, tribal decisions were unanimous, whatever the hours or days required. So today in reservations across the country, in Indian Township, disagreement is common, consensus is rare.
Few of them that don't seem to want to get together and try to get ahead, in one whole, having unity, you know, sticking together and fighting for our own rights like the colored people and everybody else, you know, that's trying to get by in this world. But we've been deprived for 200 years, I guess, or more, and of our rights and everything else. And I think perhaps we might be able to pan it out in some way without having anybody being foolish or anything.
It's improving, and there's still some guys that don't want to, you know, they don't want to do nothing. Well, welfare to me, and I think to a lot of members, is an ugly word, because that is almost like saying to us that we're paupers.
People misinterpret sometimes this thing on welfare, but when you've got nothing else, maybe it's the smart thing to do.